ọmọ mi ayọ̀ mi mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so lucky that I got you. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so blessed that I got you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Riziki from Hidayah Timeless. Welcome back to our program on parenting. I hope you've had a lovely parenting time since the last session we had. The last time we finished off on talking on the 4 different styles of parenting, where we talked of the authoritarian, the authoritative parenting, the permissive, and the uninvolved. So today we want to go deeper into these parenting styles and create like a checklist where as you're seated as a parent, you can actually assess yourself and come to a conclusion like what is your parenting style. So I'm going to go slowly again through each parenting style, give like a checklist, things that each parenting style offers to the child, and then one can actually sit back, look at every style that we've discussed, and actually decide what parenting style are they using at the moment and how they can go about changing their parenting styles. Because once you're aware of what you're doing, if it's not the right thing to be doing, one is able to change that. So inshallah, that's what we are praying for. And like I always say, parenting is a very noble task. That's what we always remind each other in every program that we do. And that these children, you're going to be accountable on the day of judgment. So let's take very good care of them, knowing that we will account for everything that we did with them. And they are a gift from Allah to us. So when we talked about parenting, we have what we call the permissive kind of parenting style. And in this kind of parenting style, it's where the parent avoids any confrontation with his child. The parent does not have any laid down rules. The parent allows the child to do anything. They are very indulgent. This child can be, maybe it could be a 6-year-old and they're already using the phone and they're not given like from this time to this time you can do this or you can't. They just are very free, are allowed to do whatever they want at any given time. There are no like rules or anything set out for them. They just live in a very uncontrolled environment. Like they are able to do whatever they want at any given time and nobody is actually going to give them any conditions. The parents are very accepting of anything the child brings in and will never talk about the dangers because the parents are afraid of not being on the same page with the children. They really want to be very permissive to these children. They're very lenient. And they are non-directive. They don't give directions. This is a home where you'll find the children do not have any directions. They're not directed on how to do certain things. Maybe they wake up, they'll not make up their beds. They'll never be asked to make up their beds. They even have no clue who makes up their beds. They don't know even maybe how to set a table for tea. They don't know how to do anything. Like they're not directed on any tasks. They just do whatever they please and nobody will direct them in anything. So they do things according to how they want, not according to how the parent wants. And this is very dangerous. These parents have low expectations from the children. They don't expect anything from these children. So the children don't feel they have to work towards anything. And this can really affect them later in life because these are children who zero expectation has been laid upon them. When they wake up in the morning, by the end of the day, the parents have not given them any sense of anything they expect from them, whether it is good manners, whether it is their ability to maybe make sure they are doing the things they're supposed to do. Like these parents are not showing them any sense of expectation. Then there is no strictness, there is no control. These are like children who are just left to do whatever they wish, whatever pleases them, it's okay. And they are just like given permission to do everything. There are no boundaries for them and there is no punishment. So I don't know if we know of such homes. I think we do know where you can go and you can see a child jumping all over the place and they cannot be stopped. They'll be told, let them be. They're just enjoying themselves. Or children who will not even be given any task to do or perform. So they do find it very difficult in life to actually go into a controlled situation or a controlled and structured place. Like when they go to school, they have difficulties because they're not used to being given any sets of rules, and they're not used to structure and routine. So when they go to school, they're now finding structure, they're finding routine. It's a very controlled system, so they really have lots of problems. And these children later on in life, and even in school, they have problems because they have a sense of entitlement. They believe that things are supposed to happen the way they want, and they believe that things are supposed to come to them. So when they don't get it, they really get disturbed and can cause a lot of problem. They have a perceived sense of everything should rotate around me because they've never had where they're told no. So the word no to them is a very, very strange word. And when they go out into the world, anytime they're told no, that really disturbs them. Then they fight back the parent when the parent tries to take control back. At some point, the parent realizes that they are losing track of this child who they cannot control anymore. So when the parent tries to bring the child back on board, this child who is not used to any set of rules will fight back through being very rebellious and maybe also developing some very unbecoming behaviors. So the parent now starts having a power struggle with this child. There is now a power. The parent is trying to get it back, and the child is saying, no, I'm not giving you back anything. And then they also have lots of problems when in school and later on in life, and always find it very hard to adjust in any situation which is controlled. The job area, any place where they have to follow certain rules, they will always have a problem and also will perform very poorly either in school or at the workplace. So it's not a good parenting style. It's something that we as parents have to watch out for. So if that is the kind of parenting we've been doing, let us now sit and assess and gain back that control early before they go to that stage where they become very, very rebellious. And I know when I'm talking like this, you have an idea maybe of a child that you have seen that is just out of control, cannot follow any sets of rules, maybe not yours. But if you've seen such a child, it's important to help that parent to come back on board. Then we have the ones you're calling authoritarian kinds of parents. These are very demanding parents. They show little warmth to their children. They are more about their rules. They're over strict. They're overly strict. They're not like now we had the permissive. Now these ones are overly strict. They have very high expectations. They set very high expectations for their children, which at times frustrate the children, and as they're not able to meet these expectations. There is high supervision. They're not given room to explore or room to even try and be themselves. It's very constricted. So here it's very different. It's like the direct opposite of permissive. So from permissive to authoritarian, it's direct different. So these ones, they are very, very strict. They will even supervise how they eat, how like even no going out to play. You play maybe, or you've seen children who will be locked in and watch others playing through the window. Like that is not the way children should be brought up. But you find that now these ones, now they are under very strict supervision. The environment is overly structured. Everything has to be the way the parent wants it to be, and you cannot even afford to be a child. It's like you're a grown-up, yet you're a child. You're supposed to behave like a grown-up in your home. Nothing should ever be out of place for you, and this can be quite tiresome for a child who still needs to be a child. This child still needs to be guided. But this parent is overly strict, does not allow any room for this child not to make any mistakes. So this child has to be a perfect kid. And later on in life, we find that these children actually end up being very emotionally distant with their parents, and they have poor social skills. They don't know how to interact with others because they didn't learn. They just learned you're supposed to do this and that and this. So these children actually find it very hard now to come back into the community and associate with other people. They are always feeling like they are on the spot. And they are this kind of people who will always try to do very much better, but not for their own self, because they feel like somebody is at the back watching what they are doing to see if it is okay. So we say they become also very anxious. They can develop anxiety disorders, and they're most likely to have a low self-esteem and not be able to perform as well as they would have loved to perform, because they're always so worried that they might not come out as well as they want. So we end up also coming up with children that are not the best of what we wanted when we have this kind of parenting. It's a parenting where we said, you do it because I said so. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for you sitting down with a child and explaining why we are setting certain rules. There's no discussion, basically, in this kind of parenting. So I think we should go through our checklist and start seeing where do we place ourselves, where do we think we are headed. Then we have the authoritative. Authoritative is where we have a highly responsive parent. This is a parent who has high expectations for the children, but gives clear standards. They are not just high expectations without guidelines. They actually give guidelines on how to get to that. They have what we call, let's talk about this. Anytime they are having anything, they have a conversation about it. The child understands why we are doing certain things. Everything is explained well. We have rules that are set, and that the child understands why those rules are there, why we are doing this. So it's not just orders, it's an order that has an explanation. So the child knows that this is there, but it has a good explanation. So the child is able to do it. It's like telling the child, you have to wear hijab, maybe if it is a daughter. But you don't explain why they have to wear the hijab. So at some point you'll find that they will get disturbed by, why am I just wearing hijab as an order and it has not been explained. But when we sit down and explain why we are wearing the hijab, we are wearing hijab because first you have to have this Muslim identity, and the Quran has ordered us to have you as a woman to wear the hijab, and even read the verse with them, explain to them, and then explain the benefits of having the hijab. So all that is now what an authoritative parent usually does, sits and explains. And then they are assertive. And usually we say, when you're an assertive person, you communicate but with respect. Like, I respect you and you respect me. So I communicate with you and with a lot of respect, and I'm not aggressive, neither am I passive. So a passive parent will be the one who is very permissive, but an assertive parent is the one who says things, and when something is wrong, they correct, but with a lot of respect. They don't use abuse word, they don't shout, they do it in a very manner where the child understands that what I did is wrong. So we don't need to shout or use swear words when we are addressing our children. So when we are being assertive, we now communicate with them with respect, where I retain my dignity and they retain their dignity. And an authoritative parent is also very affectionate. Children know that they are shown affection, which is actually something that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed us how to show affection to our children, as we did it when we read in Hadith. So that's very important. So this is the kind of parenting that is usually very conducive into having a grown-up now who can blend well back into the community. So as we go for a break, I hope you have your pens, you've been doing your checklist. As we come back, we'll continue with the other aspects of these parenting styles. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Riziki. Welcome back from the break. I think we already have our pads and our pens, and we've been doing the checklist. By now, at least we have an idea of where we are at, and it is important to check so that we can now know which directions we plan to take in our parenting style. And at times you can have a mixture of them. So it's good to check which one are you using more, so that you can actually come back to being, I think we have already realized that the kind that of parenting that is most conducive is the authoritative kind of parenting, which we have said is a more responsive way of parenting. You're actually there, it's more warm, you're more affectionate, and you're giving rules and explaining them and making them understand that their behavior will have consequences, and you're not controlling, you're not there to just crowd them, you're always there for them when they need you, they support, and you are an involved parent, a parent who is actually concerned with what is going on in their lives. So as we move on, we want to look at this other one where we are calling it uninvolved. When you say a parent is not involved, actually we are saying it's a very nice word to say that this parent is neglecting their duty. So when we say uninvolved, it's actually they are neglecting their duty. They're just not present. So in this child is literally bringing themselves up. And unfortunately, that is becoming more and more of a reality because people are very busy with their careers. People are busy with business. People are busy with jobs. And you find that these are children who sort of bring themselves up because the parents are just not present. They could be having maybe, what do I call them? Maybe house girls or whatever, just around, but they're not the parents. So the parents are literally absent. They are not in their lives. They appear once and they disappear. So these children don't have any relationship with their parents. These parents are not there. These parents have little time for their children. Some parents spend very little time with their children. So these are uninvolved parents. If you're a parent who gets into the house and the first thing you do is you switch on the telly and sit and watch, you don't talk to the children, you're not bothered with what they're doing, that is being uninvolved. Or you're just on your phone the whole time or in your room and you can just let them be with somebody else. You don't create time to be with them. You don't have time to sit with them. You don't even have time for them. That is being an uninvolved parent. So we need to ask ourselves, what kind of parents are we? So in this kind of parenting, we tell the children, you are on your own. Find whatever you want to find. Find your way out. So we've brought you into this world, but please find your way out. Find out how you want to move on around here because you're on your own. Literally, you're telling them you're not there. Very uninterested in anything they are doing. And I think we do know, when I'm talking, I always try us to go back and think, what do we know such families? Do we know people who are doing that? And if we have an idea, maybe we can help them to come on board by reminding them that I think you're not giving enough attention. Maybe you're seated there. Maybe you've been also very busy. You've not been there. Maybe it's a wake-up call for you to ask yourself, am I really giving the best in my parenting? And when we don't give the best, as we know, anytime we plant a seed, that is what we are going to sow. So at this point, remember we are getting these kids when they are a blank slate. They are totally blank. It's us who are writing in that slate. And what we write is what we will achieve. So if I am either of the parenting styles that we have been talking about, then we are literally going to get the fruits of that kind of parenting that we are talking about. So I want us to sit and reflect. What parenting style am I using and is it working? And when we talk about it being an Islamic parenting style, we go back and look. How did Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam behave around children? And you find that when he was with his grandchildren, he was very loving. He would allow them space. He would play with them. He would even stay in sujood until the young child would come back from his back. So what are we learning from that? We are learning that we have to be affectionate. We have to be present. We have to really show these children that we are connected with them and we are there for them. And then start setting out the rules that we know that we are supposed to have. I always say that most children get beaten even before they get the age of 10. Yet I think we're supposed to beat our children when they get to the age of 10 just because they have refused to pray. And I always say that there are many other ways we can punish our children, we can control them, and we can use control measures that don't ruin their lives, control measures where they know that you're doing it because you love them and that you care for them and you want the best for them. But when we use style of parenting like uninvolved, I'm not even in your life. So how does this child ever know that you really care? A child where the parent is uninvolved will definitely not perform well in school. This child will not perform well outside in their social skills. They will always feel like an unwanted person and they might not fit in the society well after they become adults, and then they become problem children. And they are the ones who are most likely to engage in activities that we call like behaviors that are very unbecoming, behaviors that make us very uncomfortable. And of late we have been talking about gangs. We've heard about gangs in all over the places. We have heard about gangs in Isili, gangs in Mombasa, gangs where. We should ask ourselves, what's the genesis of these gangs? Where are these children coming from? They're coming from homes. They're coming from homes that maybe have both a mother and both a father. But the biggest ingredient for them to have joined that gang could be the parents were just not involved. The parents were never present. And that could be either through losing these parents, maybe they are orphans, or just parents who are just not involved. So when we know that we are not involved in our children's lives, just let us remember that it's very likely for them to end up getting involved where they will get noticed. In a gang, they will get attention. When in a gang, they are going to get somebody who will acknowledge their presence. In a gang, they'll be made to feel special, and somebody somewhere will make them feel wanted. Whereas when they go back to us, we don't want them. They're just there. They're on their own. So when I'm on my own, people will definitely try to find a way out of being on their own and get other people to be around them. And that's why it's so easy for us to have this gang mentality. So we need to go back and search our hearts. Are we really doing the best so that we don't have this gang mentality within our children? And we need to actually sit back and create time for our children. I know careers are important, I know the business is important, but these children are even more important than that career. They are more important than that business. What you're actually making is you're making the next ummah. Because now what we are putting into our children, they're going to be the next Muslims. They're the ones going to be in charge of everything. The mosques, they're the ones going to be in charge of what is happening for the Muslim community. So what have we imprinted in them? What have we implanted with them so that we are sure when we get to the end of the race, we can give the baton and step aside? So are we going to step aside when we have not done what is supposed to be done? So it's like every parent somewhere, wherever they are, they have to come on board. We have to sit and reflect. If I'm not on the right track, I have to get myself back on the right track. And reminding myself that this is also your sadaqatul jariyah. When you're not there, this child's dua will raise your status in Jannah, or will even maybe get you from hellfire. So this is a very noble job. It's not a part-time job. You can do it today and tomorrow you are off. It's a full-time job. I know it does get tiresome, but what we do is we will talk about self-care. So as we go on in one of the programs, we'll talk about self-care, how to take time out for yourself so that you don't get burnout even through this parenting. But the most important thing is we must try and get involved. We must become more of authoritative parents as opposed to being too permissive. Being too permissive, we say that you become friends with the child and you lose the drawing line where there's a line drawing that I am the parent and this is the child. That becomes mixed up and we can't tell who is the child and who is the parent here. So it's at times it becomes like the child is parenting the mother. And I remember I had a certain case. I think these stories sort of bring these things out to life. I remember one time I had somewhere like I could tell this child was parenting the mother. So the child would always talk about the things that needs to be done for the mom and everything until I brought it to the mother's attention that don't you think this child is parenting you as opposed to you parenting the child? So when your child starts parenting you, then we have bloodlines. Like it's not clear. There's no clear distinction of who is the parent and who is the child. And the child will now be talking like the grown-up, and the parent starts acting like the child. And later on, the child starts feeling that they are not being given what they're supposed to be. They are supposed to be getting nurturing, but they're the ones nurturing instead. So what happens is that this child gets confused because that is not their role. And this child is likely to come and have consequences later in life if this is not turned around. So let us not be parents who are the ones who don't know where to draw the line when we are doing our parenting. Let us always remember that we are the parent and they are the children, and that we don't blur these lines. And having this friendship, it's okay to be friends with your children, but don't let them blur the line until you can't tell who is the child and who is the parent. There has to be a respect and an authority where they can tell the difference between who is the child and who is the parent. So as we sit and reflect on these styles, I want us to actually assess ourselves and then actually come up with what we think we are and what we want to become. So I'll urge each one of us, wherever we are, to actually reflect on what we have talked about, the style, and change your style for the better. Remember, we said that we want to change this ummah. We want children who will be there for us even after we are gone. So until we meet next time, this is Riziki Ahmed from Hidayah Timeless Solutions.
Ọmọ mi, ayọ̀ mi, mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún, I feel so loved.